Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm Nancy Schilling, and I'm going to introduce myself. I recently moved myself and my family from Michigan to Florida, so we're residents of Tampa, Florida. And myself and my husband, Jed, also recently joined the URI Parents Council several months back. And we started really with fundraising for athletics, but quickly recognized there's so many other areas and facets of the university that need parental support. So we're really looking forward to continuing our efforts in the URI Parents Council. We also have, and we're really proud of our daughter, Gabrielle. She's a student athlete on the women's volleyball team. She earned her undergrad degree in 2021 and will finish her master's, her MBA, this coming December. So when I was approached to actually host this session, I was pretty excited because it's perfect timing as many of our sons and daughters are embarking on their professional careers, that we understand the tools and the resources that the university has to support that. Before we get started, I want to go through a couple of housekeeping items. One is this this presentation rather is being recorded, and there will be a link provided for this recording on the URI Alumni YouTube channel. I would also tell you that it may take a few days to do that, so be patient, but it will eventually be uploaded. Number two, if all of you can check whatever device you're on, whether it be a phone or computer, and please put yourself on mute so that we don't interrupt our presenters with feedback. And lastly, as we're going through the session, and if you have any questions, you can enter them in the Q&A section or the chat section, and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the end of the presentation. I'm now going to get to the meat of the presentation, and Kim Stack is going to be taking us through the Rams Get Jobs presentation today. She's an alumni, an instructor, and leads the Center for Career and Experiential Education. She is passionate about preparing students for their career paths and is a mentor to many. So I'll turn it over to you, Kim.
Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be with you today. As Nancy mentioned, my name is Dr. Kim Stack, and I am a three-time alum of the University of Rhode Island. I just adore it here. As you can see, I have a lot of pictures with Rhody, probably more than I have with anyone else. So over time, it's been great to work in a variety of departments, but in particular, the Career Center holds very close to my heart. It's where we have the opportunity to really get to know your sons and daughters and work with them on their pathways towards their future career goals. So let me hand this over to Audra to introduce herself.
My name is Audra Lavoie. I'm a career education specialist. I am also a URI alum because it's Rhode Island and so many of us are. My undergraduate degree is from here. I have a very varied career where I've worked in a lot of different sectors, for-profit, nonprofit, government. I've worked in a bunch of different industries, and all of that is what I bring to my job. I also, before starting in this role, had worked with our alumni for 5 years, which really helped me in my transition to students, because now I can see both sides of things, what we're really preparing students for.
Audra and I are really excited to be here with you today, and we would encourage you, if you do have specific questions that you have on your mind, put those into the chat and we will be sure to respond to those. We're hoping that as we go through this information, it will already pre-populate those answers for you, but just in case it doesn't, feel free to do that. We really would like this to be an exchange because we want you to have all, like Nancy said, all of the tools in order to best support students. One of our professional associations we work most closely with is called NACE, and NACE puts out so much research to guide our thinking and our approach to working with students. What we know to be true is that the students who are utilizing career centers are more equipped. I know that would not surprise you, but they are much better equipped to be able to go into the working world for many reasons. And these are just two of them. We also know that their salaries increase if they do this because we work with them on salary negotiations. So that's a very helpful tip to know as well. Within our career center, we have different types of staff members working together in order to help support our students and our faculty and our employer partners. So let me explain that. We have experiential education coordinators, and these are the people who are helping to work with faculty on integrating experiential learning into their classes. There's many different types of experiential learning, and I'll get to that, but I think it's important to know that we help to support those bridges as liaisons between employer partners and faculty members on campus. We also have career education specialists, of which Audra is one, and those staff members help to support our students in their job search, internship search, preparing for resume review, mock interviews, all of those types of things that really focus on professional development for students. The nice part about the career education specialists too is right from the start of a student's career, they're connected to their career specialist in an advising platform called Starfish. So I think that's helpful for students to see their career specialist in their success network is what it's called, right from the start, and know that they can make appointments with them through their as early as their first semester, first year. And then we have an employer and community relations team that works to support our employer partners who are trying to recruit on campus, who are looking to develop meaningful relationships with students in an effort to identify talent. And our community relations is focused on service and community engagement within our local area. We also have some cool opportunities for students to do trips away during spring break, and that all comes from that department. Thought this was helpful for you to know our strategic goals and plan just from a higher level. We really do focus a lot of our time on equity and inclusion in our work. That's so important for our students to know that we are making sure that we're prioritizing DEI in everything that we're doing, especially as we identify community partners and employers to work with us. We not only support the advisement of students in their internships, but we're also teaching them, and that's why comprehensive career education is important. We appreciate the opportunity to work with, partner with faculty in order to build more experiential opportunities for students that are really rich and help expose students to different opportunities that they could get involved in. And then finally, that civic engagement component is so critical to working within the local community, knowing that there's such high need.
So I am one of those career education specialists, and we had a question actually about how you find us. Every student has a dedicated career education specialist, even if they're an undeclared major. So no matter what their major is or isn't, there's somebody dedicated to work with them one-on-one. They will see us in Starfish. So every student has Starfish, every undergraduate student has Starfish. And in Starfish, they have a network. Within their network, they'll see who their academic advisors are, their professors are, as well as their career education specialists. They can schedule appointments directly with us in that system. They also can come to drop-in hours. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday in our office, we have drop-in hours, and no matter who's here, we're happy to talk to them, even if they're not our major, and answer some quick questions and connect them to the right person. As far as what we do teach courses and connect with the internship piece and help to facilitate those. The big thing I tell people, we can work with you anything that's career related. So if you have a career related question, we're here. It's one-on-one, so you're able to get your question directly answered. A lot of times that's intimidating because we're not really sure where to start. So when I go into classrooms and I introduce myself, I tell students there are the top 3 things that bring people to me. So anything career, but number 1 is a resume, that someone knows they need a resume, whether it is for a job, an internship, or applying to grad school. Number 2 is finding opportunities. So they're looking for that part-time, full-time, or internship. So we talk about that all the time, sharing what resources are available. And number 3 is paths. So we are working with students from the beginning. And a lot of times I'll say the first year students are the ones that are most often, first year and second year, want to know, am I on the right path? Does this major connect with this career? Does this career, what major would connect so we can go in either direction? Or They know what they want, but they are trying to be really strategic and being as strong as possible for a candidate later on. So they're really doing a lot of forward planning. So those are my top three, but once again, anything career. One of the resources that we like is our majors by clusters and careers by clusters. So a lot of times there's a major and it's interesting and you're excited about it, but you're not really sure how to navigate it. So for a student and for faculty and for parents, this is a great resource just to say, hey, here are some of the things that are connected to these majors. We have a bunch more resources in this area, but it's also how we've started to do our work internally to make sure that we are partnering with academic advising and with each other in a way that industry-wise makes sense for a student. Of our resources, I'll show you one. So these clusters, we have a separate page for each one. This is mine. So one of the majors that I advise for falls into our environmental and life sciences. So this is our cells area. And for each one of these sections, they're set up the same way. So the first part being the whole lot of questions on what can I actually do with my major? Where does this lead? This is an awesome resource. This is one of my favorite resources. There is a link to niche search engines. There's a link to different types of jobs. It breaks it down by industries. It's a great, great resource. We'll show you and talk about these later on, but this tells you where some of the students in the past or our alumni are. Searching, we have whole bunches of niche resources. A big question of how do I get credit for something that might be an internship or research? And then more resources that are specific to their major. So I always tell students, you want to look at all the different resources that are there, but it feels good to see a resume that's connected first to you.
I'm reading the chat. How long is the wait list to get an appointment? So students usually within a week's time are able to see a career specialist. And if they are in dire straits, meaning, let's say they're applying to an internship and the application is due very quickly, they couldn't get the appointment right away with their specific career specialist, they can attend drop-in hours, drop-in appointments. And so we have those daily, which is usually super helpful to students.
So I'll say I have a large chunk of majors, and I am definitely filled up. I make myself available, same thing over breaks. So we try to be as flexible as possible. If a student doesn't see things that work with their schedule, once again, the drop-in hours, or they email us directly and we'll find a way to make something fit.
Sure. So someone just asked too, how do you find the page that Audra just showed us? And so if you go to uri.edu/career, that's our website, and click on students and it will take you there. You just click on by major, look by major, and that's how you'll find it. And in order to find your career specialist, as she had said earlier, the Starfish platform is super helpful. So if a student logs into that and they have access to that right away, they'll be able to find their career specialist right away. Oh, thanks, Audra. She's pulling up the page right now. So if you see career, uri.edu/career, then /students, you can log in right through there. So yeah, perfect. Move forward from there. And we had just talked about experiential coordinators. I'll move forward from there. Some of them are really helpful though for your students as well. For example, Lynn and Erin, they also both work with students within their degree colleges. So students are connected to them on Starfish too. It just depends on the number that they're helping to support. But you're right, we do have a large number of undergraduates, and that's why we have to try to find strategic ways to make this work and have as many resources on the website as we can. Little different from academic advising, though. Students are required to meet with an academic advisor. They're not required to meet with a career advisor. So that's why it does work better for us. But your student should not have a trouble gaining access to an appointment. I think it's important to know too, the number of students who are involved in experiential learning courses. So these are the students who have some kind of credit bearing opportunity that they've taken advantage of. And so 199 majors have been involved, and over 7,000 students annually are enrolling in some form of experiential learning for credit. And then there are students who are doing some form of an internship, maybe not for credit. Maybe they decided just to be paid for it and it was something for summer, or that their curriculum didn't require them to have any kind of experiential learning or anything for credit. So they could just do this on their own. That's fine. If you skip to the next. What's also great to know is that students love experiential learning opportunities so much that they're re-enrolling in more courses that are experiential learning based. So we're seeing upwards of over 12,000 enrollments in experiential based courses. And I think it's important to know that there are so many different types. So here is just an example of what we're seeing annually. Project-based learning is something that means that your students are working on resolving a problem or are working on a project in a course with an employer and a faculty member. We see this a lot in engineering and in business. We also see a lot of scholarship and research happening. And so that original research where you're out there in the field and you're able to work with community partners, that's happening on a large scale as well, especially in the College of Environment and Life Sciences and Arts and Sciences. And then you see internships. We all often use internship as an umbrella term, but if you see here, it's not always the most popular form for credit. Although students, again, are doing this not for credit too. So it just depends on what their preference is. If they don't need the credit, they don't have to do this for credit. And then of course, based on your major would be the different type of experiential learning you'd have. So there are nursing clinicals, there's student teaching, there's pharmacy practice. So again, this is the vast array, and all the definitions are on our website as well. We often get asked, how would our son or daughter identify the courses that are coded as experiential learning? How would they figure that out? And so we do have this website where people can search this and find that out. They can also see if it counts towards general education credit too. So this can be something that's pretty helpful to you. And the other is looking at curriculum sheets if you've not done that already. And so there is a specific advising by major. Thanks, Alicia, for posting that website where you can look at the curriculum sheet and see right away, is experiential learning right away. I say that, but you have to do a little bit of navigating. And usually your student is equipped to do that, but they could also talk with their career specialist to learn a little bit more. So for example, this is what a curriculum sheet would look like, and they can navigate this to see if there are internship or experiential courses that they can enroll in.
And this varies greatly by major, as you would expect. So some of the majors have very tightly wound or tightly compacted curriculums. Others have a lot of free electives, which those are students that I speak to about whether they want a double major, whether they want a minor. Those are ones who often do internships for credit because they have the flexibility and they know once they get one experience, they want to keep building on more and more opportunities.
Mm-hmm. And these are the people who foster those opportunities being built. So they are working within the community to engage these employer and community partners to do more within URI. And the way in which we know that's working well is we have about 17,000 employers hosting on our Handshake platform. So Handshake is another tool that students have access to through their single sign-on, so that SSO platform. on SSO, they can access that Starfish advising platform where they can identify their career specialist, and they can access Handshake. So Handshake is where students can search for jobs and internships. That also includes on-campus jobs. So if your student or your graduate is looking for any kind of opportunity, Handshake is a great way to identify that. And if you are an employer who's looking to post and you want to attract roadie talent, may I now say, please post, create an account on Handshake and do something like that. But you can search together. Students are the ones who have access, but you can definitely look at it with them. We ask students right from the start to log in to Handshake so they're aware of it. And we do that in the first year seminar URI 101. So that's part of their course. We have hosted virtual events through Handshake. So if students, if employer partners couldn't make it to campus, they're at a distance, or they just weren't able to be here, then they can access Handshake and meet with students right through there. So it's a pretty great platform for us. Right now, we're seeing upwards of over 300 jobs a day that are being posted to this system. So if your student is saying, I'm having a challenging time identifying an opportunity, again, meet with the career specialist. They can navigate this together. Sometimes it's just navigating the tool with someone the first time to know the nuances of it, and then they should be good to go.
So this is something that's also available to alumni. If you do have somebody who's graduated, if they graduated recently, they still have their account and still active. If they graduated, 5+ years ago, then they can turn around and create an account as an alum. Handshake calls everybody a student, even if they're an alum. That's part of their language. One of the questions is, how do we proactively assist students to find internships? One of the things that we're always doing is, for each of the career education specialists, is going into the classrooms. And for our experiential educators, they're trying to build that relationship so that our goal is to make sure students are aware that they should be looking at opportunities, that this is a really great way to feel out, am I in the right major, am I on the right path, and how do I make the connections and start building on more experiences. So definitely we're trying to do this proactively by going into the classrooms. We also, most of us on the team, will send out newsletters to our populations. And so we go into Handshake and we pull out opportunities that we think our students would be interested in. Obviously, they have a whole host they can come back and look at, but we're trying to be constant reminders. We know that in this springtime, we'll do a lot of outreach, because summertime is one of those key opportunities where students really like to do internships.
And another one of the questions was about, when do you start that process and how long does it take? And this is a good slide to lead into that. It depends is the answer. I'm sorry to say, but it depends. It depends on the industry. So industries like healthcare are, as you can see, they're in such high demand that they're ready tomorrow for students to be applying in for internships or other opportunities, job opportunities. So I would say this: if it's a more competitive type of field, then the student should definitely meet with their career specialist earlier on. For example, if they're applying to something that's a federal type of opportunity, it usually has a lot of paperwork processes involved in it. As you can imagine, federal state opportunities sometimes do. So those, I would say, start early. Something that's more competitive, if you're looking towards like a media marketing kind of internship, I would say the early in the semester before you want to go to persist in that opportunity is a good time to start the process. But it doesn't hurt to look right away. So one of the things we also encourage students to do is to attend the career events, so the job and internship fairs that we host on campus. And those are listed on our event page on our website. When students attend those, even as early as first year, they start to learn a little bit more from employers about what they're looking for and what the time frame is of which they're looking for it. So if a student's thinking, I want to do something my junior year and senior year, great. Start at the end of your first year and then look, because you get to network with some of these employers And I think it's important just to see the spectrum of types of industries who are posting opportunities. Really, students can find something from almost any area. There was a question earlier about data science and moving forward with that. And I would say if your student has or alum has not yet found something, Audra is going to walk through this platform called URI Career Connect, which is a great way for alumni to connect with other alumni in the field. But I would also say that this, depending on when the alum graduated, they will still have access to Handshake and can always contact alumni to identify different opportunities.
As well as alumni career services. So there are 2 staff members that focus on that, Karen Urbano and Kate Vanny. So those are great resources for somebody who is feeling that stuck feeling. And to reiterate what Kim was saying about the timelines, I do tell the first year and second year, even if you're not sure, make an appointment with us just to check in, because it feels stressful when you're in your senior year and now you're panicking and do I have enough experience, where for the students I work with who are interested in those federal positions, the FBI application is due in September, the beginning of September, for the following summertime. Right now in CELS, we have awesome, really great paid opportunities for the summer that are fellowships, and the applications are going to be due now and over the next month, and that's for summertime. Accounting usually operates a year to a year and a half ahead of time. Engineering, same thing. They operate a lot earlier in the timeline. So it varies greatly, but having just a simple meeting ahead of time can take out the stress and the worry and make us feel more comfortable and familiar to them. As Kim was mentioning, we have events. Now these events are open to alumni, students, public. Right now we're at the beginning of the semester, so there'll be a lot more added. There's shadowing days that are happening. One that is on its second year is our Building Unity event. So this is partnership with our Multicultural Center. This was a great networking opportunity last year. We have an all career, so this is for all majors. We do a lot that separates out by the colleges, but then we know that there's a whole host of people who come mid-spring say, oh my gosh, what's there for the summer? So we're having all majors fair this springtime, March 29th. That'll be in our Ryan Center. That'll have somewhere around like 80 different employers, and our career and the employer relations is very strategic in trying to make sure that we're representing as many majors as possible and as many organizations that can employ many different majors. So these are huge. Our events are always growing. We were able to be flexible during times in going virtual. We're finding that we still want to keep some virtual because that allows access to a lot more students. We had one at the beginning of this year in September that was an on-campus job fair that brought almost 1,000 students in, which was crazy. Once again, Handshake is a resource that students can go back and look to for that. But we have the specialized fairs and some larger ones too. And to what Kim was also saying about finding people, this is one of my favorite resources. I love LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn in general. I enjoy it. But when I'm working with a student, I use it oftentimes as a research opportunity. It can be tough to see what do people do? Where are my opportunities? I'm not really sure on that pathway. You have at your fingertips, if you're on LinkedIn, a whole network. So all you do on LinkedIn is search for the University of Rhode Island right in the search bar. When you come to our page, you're going to see a lot of different links, but we're going to look at alumni. There are 102,000 alumni currently from URI on LinkedIn. And from here, if your child is really interested in a particular company, they can search by a certain company. They can also, and this is where I work a lot with students, say what they studied. So if we have a student who studied or is studying marketing and they're going, I'm not really sure what all those opportunities are, great, marketing, and we'll say that they want to stay in the Rhode Island area. And now I can look and see, okay, there's some at URI, Fidelity, CVS, Hasbro. Let's look at Hasbro. So we're just always narrowing it down. But if I'm a marketing major and now I'm looking at fellow alumni or alumni that are in marketing in Hasbro, I have people right here that I can reach out to. And I love looking at this too, because if I'm a student, a lot of times I can go back and start to see, how did this person build their experience? Now, this is somebody who is a recent grad from 2020, and they were able to intern at CVS and the Hershey Company, and then move into Hasbro itself. I can go back and look at all these different people's profiles. So I love this as one fantastic resource to reach out and connect. I always tell people you already have something in common with them, so they're an easier group to connect with. You get to say, we have URI in common. Very similarly, we have our own version, which is URI Career Connect. URI Career Connect is open to alumni, it's open to students. In the system itself, students can reach out. So on LinkedIn, I can always message somebody. In Career Connect, our system here that's supported by the URI Foundation and Alumni Engagement, they can reach in and set up appointments within the system. They also can look at their groups. So if they're a student who's involved in ROTC, if they're a talent development scholar, if they're on the sailing team, they can use those to start and look and see, is there somebody else who has that in common with me? Right now on this platform, and this was just launched 2 years ago, but as of this past December, there are almost 3,000 people live on the system, about 1,300 that are on the advisors and 25 that are advisees. So once again, if your student is curious about what's out there, here's one great resource that they can start to look at and connect directly people. And I would say, whether they have something specific in mind or they just, every semester I have a class that is a career readiness class, and we assign informational interviews. And every student dreads it and they get nervous and they're not sure how to connect, and we'll coach them through it. But every time when I read those interviews afterwards, they gain something, and it can be the same thing you tell them, it can be the same thing we tell them, but they gain so much more from talking to that person directly who's in something that interests them. So reaching out, I think, is one of the best resources to best prepare them.
We've had a lot of fun with that too. I know just meeting with alumni who I knew as students who are now reaching out to say, I'm going to change my career. I don't know where to begin, or I want to take another path and I need some help on moving forward in that. And doing that through the Career Connect platform has been a lot of fun to work with them and also connect them to other alumni that I may know from working with students for years. One of the cool projects we had entered into last year was to look at where are our alumni, what are they doing, what kind of occupations, and where are they working? And then what are the skills that it takes in order to do those particular roles so that students can enter into really intentional course selection. Like if they know that going into some of these fields is going to require them to have more public speaking skills or writing skills, like that they can now register for specific courses. And earlier, Audra was showing you her side of the website, and that there's 2 different links per major, per most majors. And so it might be that, you're wondering with a biological sciences degree, what are alumni doing with these degrees? And it may have taken more education in order to do some of these roles, but this is just a great place for us to start with students, especially students who are really uncertain as to what the right next path is for them, and that they want to know a little bit more about how to utilize the degree. Then for students who are really uncertain about which trajectories they could take, the what can I do with this major summarizes some of the opportunities, kind of common employers, different professional associations that students can join. So another one of those helpful tips that Audra has, not only with LinkedIn and connecting with alumni who obviously would want to help students from their own school, is connecting with some of these professional organizations earlier on. Sometimes they have a student rate to join. Sometimes they won't charge students at all. And so it's just a great way for students to start to network. And I want them to market themselves early on. Once they do that, they'll feel so much more confident and comfortable. We see students enter into some of our events, and as Audra said, they're a little nervous when they walk through those doors, not certain that the employers really want to talk with them, when in fact the employers are desperate to talk with them. That is why they attend. That's why they come to campus. Each year, we administer a survey of recent graduates to learn a little bit more about where did last year's class move on towards. And what we consistently see is that 6 months after graduation, approximately 75% of our recent graduates who respond are employed, and 15% persist to graduate school. So about 90% are doing the thing they really hoped to do upon graduation. So I think this is excellent. And this is just a sampling of some of the types of organizations that are hiring our recent graduates. We have given you a lot of information in a half hour. And we know that this is just part of our language within our office. And so some of this may be really new to you and you want us to go back through something or respond to something. That's why we wanted to stop here and just open it up to as many questions as you may have.
So one question is, if an international student may want to pursue a career in the US, they need to start with the international office before yourselves. It depends. So if it really depends on their visa status. So if they have a status where they can intern, if they are able to work but they can't get paid, so if they can volunteer, if they can work for a couple of years under their visa, whatever it is, we'll work with them. We often work with the international office and refer that way because they're the ones who are the best and most fluent in the different visa status. Same thing going the other way. We have a lot of students who want to go overseas and gain some experience, especially like it's their chance to see their field, but in this global environment. We recommend working with the international office for that too.
And they have lists of requirements, so they really are our expert partners in all of this. And that's why I say I think it's so valuable to have that appointment with an international education advisor and talk through what those requirements are, and then meet with us to have that sit down of, okay, where could I go? What are the possibilities and how do I pursue them? So yes, it's really hand in hand.
And the question about business analytics, if that is one of the majors that's being offered. Yes, there's the BIS, Business Information and Analytics, I think it is, or BAI. And when it comes to the internships, so if someone's doing it not for credit, we can work with them no matter what. For the business school specifically, if they're looking for credit, they want to be working with the business school. I advise business majors, so I'm happy to talk to them directly about the process and connect them. Lynn Finnegan would be the person they would want to work with to talk about actually getting credit for their internship. But once again, we push experience because we know experience is that key to figuring a lot of stuff out. It may or may not work credit-wise, especially depending on your major.
Another question was about mechanical engineering and having a hard time finding a summer internship in Massachusetts. I would say if the student has not been looking on Handshake, that they should, because there are still out-of-state opportunities that are posted. And it depends on what sector of Massachusetts and how far they're willing to travel, because we do see a lot of opportunities around the Boston area. Or if you are close enough to Providence too, that might be an opportunity for travel. It just depends on where in Mass. But there are two people who help to support students in engineering. One is Lauren Kramer and the other is Lisa Quasmanen. So it just depends on, so son is a junior. So yes, Lauren Kramer would be the right person for your student to make an appointment with. And Lauren is housed in the College of Engineering. So your son can make an appointment right with her.
And one of the ways we coach students, we're not a placement. No one's like putting somebody into the position. We're going to coach them on what resources are available, how we can help. We can review their materials as they go through a process. But depending on the opportunity, and I say this all the time for research is kind of, it can be very much footwork that you are going to reach out to professors. We have a bunch of great websites. We have a bunch of great resources. But there's a lot of reaching out and saying, hey, is this available now? Same thing happens with the internships. There are definitely companies crying for anyone in engineering fields. So finding out who those companies are, we always tell them, like, when you look on Indeed and LinkedIn, those are awesome websites, but they cost money for the company. It costs them money to post opportunities. So sometimes the student's not finding what they want there. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It totally exists. There's a huge need, but they might have to reach out directly to the companies. And so that's something we can coach them through, like finding out who those companies are, where they are. How do you help students who know they will need to go to graduate school? So there are some really interesting and good resources. If there are students who know that they're going to go on a health track, so they know they're going to look to be go into physical therapy, or they're going to be looking to go on the physician assistant track, we actually have advisors. They're not within our department, they're on the academic side, but there's a pre-health advisor. There are pre-law advisors. So whatever we know of, we're going to connect with them because we partner. These are some of our partners to make sure that there's a nice opportunity, that they know it's out there. Definitely, if I know a student is on a grad school track, then number one, I want to make sure that they're building experiences. If it's the medical track, they probably need patient care connection. So we talk about that. If it is the law side, then we talk about what population that they want to serve. And if they are actively pursuing it, we do work with students on their application. So they're doing it, but we will review materials like their personal statements, as well as their resumes. And they have access to our writing center, which is also a really good resource for personal statements.
The other one was about jobs and internships for film and media for sophomore. So again, never too early to start, but I would say, for your students, make sure they are feeling pretty confident in some of the content area before persisting into an internship, especially if it would be high content that they would need in order to move forward. So film is an interesting area because we oftentimes will just hear of film opportunities that are going to be taking place for a few weeks time period. So it's not usually like a full-blown internship if it's with movies. But sometimes it could be that you're doing a film or a media project for an organization. And those, again, are posted on Handshake. So we encourage students to look through there. Also, the film and media instructors in the Harrington School will see they network quite a bit and they have a lot of partners themselves. So they also bring attention to students on these kinds of opportunities as they hear of them. We also have the career specialist who works with Harrington students for film and media. Her name is Jenna Vicino. Jenna faithfully sends out emails to her students, which my favorite thing with students is when we'll say, did you see the email from Jenna? And they'll say, I saw that a woman named Jenna had emailed me. And I'll say, you should open that. So definitely have them open it because there are some of these really cool opportunities, but we all get overwhelmed by the number of emails that we're receiving. But that one's an important one to look through. So I hope that's helpful.
And there's so many interesting ones in this area. Like we had an alum who wound up working for the Province Chamber of Commerce, and she was a film and media graduate and then started doing commercials and helping out the small businesses. We definitely see it on the media side all the time. We also had a great conversation with somebody recently who's in production, and they were talking about, we always look to those big companies, but a lot of times they're the small production companies that are feeding the big companies the materials. So another great conversation with Jenna in this case.
There's also a question on housing opportunities in Rhode Island, and that is a tricky situation, but it depends is again the answer, which I should just have a t-shirt that says it depends by this point in our talk. There is housing at URI if you are enrolled for credit in something, but if the internship is only for pay or volunteering, then no, that's not quite an opportunity. So that's been a little bit of a hindrance. And again, if you have a group of students who are trying to find housing together, that could make it a little bit easier. And also some of the other schools may open up their doors. Like we know when students are trying to do internships in New York in the summertime, NYU does open their doors to students who are not NYU students, understanding that this could be a great opportunity for them, but, and they could pay them to live in their housing and do their internship in New York. So it sort of depends is unfortunately the answer there.
We have two cells, so two environmental and engineering fellowships that offer housing on campus in the summers. And once again, they're unique opportunities. Question about what internship opportunities are available for a CCJ and chemistry double major. So I work with CCJ and I have a lot of students in that who are specifically interested in forensics, which chemistry is the path for someone who wants to go forensics. So one thing that I'll self-promote is in 3 days and a couple days, I have a course that I'm offering that's a winter course. So it starts on Monday. They would need to register now if they're interested, but it's a 2-week course that's all about careers and justice. And for that one, we are going to go to the state police. So that's a chance to see where those two might come together. We also have a crime lab on campus, which as a chemistry major, they're probably aware of, but there is the URI crime lab that does do a lot of the work for a lot of different justice agencies in the state. And that's really unique. As far as what opportunities, it would really depend what they're interested in. So if they do want to go that forensics route, it often is connected with state police in some way. If not, and there's just something else that they're trying to put together, we can have a great conversation about that.
I think majority, we just received word that we'll be needing to wrap up, but I think the majority of the rest of the questions are all about where do you find opportunities? And I would say there's going to be, just to wrap it up, there's a couple areas. First is Handshake. So utilizing the platform, since we're seeing 300 plus postings a day, there's going to be something there. And at least it's a starting point for students to be able to view to see what are some of the opportunities that are out there. The next is to make an appointment with the career specialist to search, and they can help them to navigate where have students been in the past. Like our career specialists, I am so happy to say, have been working with us for years. So they really are expert in a lot of these areas. And it's great to have that expertise because they can share their knowledge of where students have been and now where alumni are. So meeting with them is really most important. And I think, finding any type of opportunity, whether it's an internship or a job, they're really going to be the key for most of your students.
And when it comes to, there's a question about paid, when it comes to those paid opportunities, they can see that in Handshake. They can actually use the refining features to say, I'm looking for a paid opportunity. There's also some other people who would take advantage of like workforce immersion, which is a whole other program we can talk to them about.
That's another webinar.
It is. So definitely have your child reach out to us. And we're happy to guide them through this process and answer all these great questions that you all are putting forward.
Okay, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. I apologize, I'm unable to turn on my video again. John, I don't know if you can help with that. But we are going to wrap the session up. If you can advance to the next slide. Okay. I guess lastly, I really want to make some closing remarks by first thanking Kim and Audra. I think honestly, you can tell they are subject matter experts in the area that they are responsible for. And honestly, I learned so much today. I didn't even understand that the resources that you provided today were available, and so many open to both students and alumni, which is also great. So thank you again, Kim and Audra, for your great presentation. Also want to thank John and Jenny. I know you do a lot of work behind the scenes to actually make these seminars successful, so thanks to you as well. You're going to see some information on the slide we're on about the Parents Council. And so I do want to thank all the council members who would have attended today, but we want to certainly open it up for anybody else who might be interested. You can certainly contact Jennifer. You see her information on the slide here, and that will be part of our presentation package that's uploaded later. So we're going to conclude now. And again, thanks for everyone in attendance. And again, I learned a tremendous amount. Thanks, and go Rhody. And we'll close the session. Thank you.